All right, we're live. Very good. Hey guys, good evening. I think it's the 1st of October, 8 o'clock. We're going to do another webinar tonight. How to improve relationships. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Zoom. People are still trickling in, so we're going to take it very, very slow at this point. But I see that Nicolene is here on Zoom. Welcome. It's great to have you again. Chantal is here. It's great to have you too, Chantal. Chantal, are you here for the first time? And Anita Hemmings is here right now on Zoom. So guys, we have the chat open. If you want to say something in the chat, I'm actually going to invite you to share some things in the chat. But also for people who are watching tonight on Facebook, you're most welcome to type your comments in on Facebook. Our host Dita will pass it on to the group here, and so in that way we can all see what it's all about. I see that. Let's see. Uluwatoyen, thank you for joining. Good evening. So yeah, brief introduction. My name is Erik. I'm Dutch. I'm from Holland, just like Nicolene, who just said hi. Hello, Nicolene from Holland. I'm also from Holland. I've been in Ireland right now for 2.5 years. Before that, I lived in partially in Latin America, Caribbean, for about 10 years. Different countries in Europe. One of my things has always been that I like to travel. I always choose another destination and then I simply go for it. A bit adventurous in that way. And my background is in new person here waiting. My background is in engineering. I'm an electronics engineer. I also studied economics. However, it didn't satisfy me at all, to be honest. Already when I was in college, it's a long time ago, I was looking for something more. I had this idea like there must be more to life than just work, retire, and that's it, right? So I was always looking for information and particularly stuff that I could use to improve my life, and perhaps tools even to help others to improve their lives. And so in that respect, I read quite a bit of psychology, I read quite a bit of philosophy and these kind of things, motivational books. It was all great. However, it didn't really provide me with something practical. Like at the end of the book, maybe if you encounter something familiar, you would say, okay, it was a great book. It was very motivational. But now what? Now what? How am I going to use this in my life? Usually I had a good substance to discuss with my friends, but that was pretty much it. And at some point, I found something that turned out to be tremendously valuable. It handled certain fears that I had. I handled procrastination to quite an extent. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be actually talking here tonight doing webinars if I wouldn't have gone through these materials. And these materials turned out to be very, very practical. There was something there that you could actually apply and use and then see the results instantly. So that's a bit my background, and I like to dive into these books and stuff, and I just love to pass it on. That's my passion. That's about me. So my question to you guys right now is, maybe you want to share where you are from. You can share that in the chat just to familiarize with one another. And the other thing is that maybe you also want to share tonight what is it that you would like to solve with respect to this subject. We're going to be talking about improving relationships. What is the thing that you're here for? What do you like to solve or remedy or better? Maybe you want to share that in the chat. Okay, let me read what I'm having here. So we have Anita here, Anita Hemmings. We know each other already. Thank you for being here again, Anita. It's always great to see you. And as you can see, guys, Anita is from the UK. Okay, so Chantal, no, tried to join your event last week. The battery kept dying, so I didn't get to attend. Oh my God, what a disaster, Chantal. Well, I'm happy you made it. And I hope your battery is going to last tonight. Yeah, that would be great. All right, guys. So we also have Becca right here. I think Becca is also your first time, right? Good to have you. Becca and a Rose, I love your name. Jack is here again. It's been a while, Jack, but it's great to have you again. Then we have Maxine. Okay, Maxine, great to have you too. Yeah, maybe Maxine, you also want to share with us where are you from and why are you joining this webinar tonight. So I'm going to give you just all, let's say, a minute. And I hope you bear with me tonight. Just like I said, I'm Dutch. My English is probably not super fluent. I might make mistakes, grammar mistakes. Maybe maybe I have to get used to my accent or whatever it is. The data hopefully is worth it. Yeah. Good. So anybody wants to share what you actually want to handle or what you want to solve or remedy? And we're going to try to give you some data on that tonight. All right. Olua, let me. You guys have so many syllables in a name. It's a beautiful African name, I assume. But let me call you Olua, if that's okay with you. I want to be able to have a great relationship with people while be firm. All right, so Nigerian. Cool, that's fantastic. Let's see. Okay. All right, so I'm back in the chat again. I would like to have a great relationship with people while be firm and do what's need to be done at all time. Okay, good. Great. I think that's a good purpose. So basically work, relationships, and personal. Thank you. All right, Maxine. Maxine from London. All right, here for part of personal development. Thank you, Maxine. Great. Okay. Aloha. From Nigeria. I'm a manager, so now deal with a lot of people and also married. Okay, good. Awesome. You like your job as a manager? At some point, I was running a team of 45 people. I liked it a lot, but if you have the tools to handle a group, it can be a lot of fun. Just like you need a manual to fix a car, yeah. You also need a manual for life, right? And the more we know about that, the easier it becomes. So tonight, I'm going to give you a tool on how to build better relationships. Chantel, it's 90% tonight. Okay, you refer to your battery. Fantastic. From Northern Ireland. Fantastic. I've been there a couple of times. Been, like I said, like a bit over 2 years now in Ireland right now. Been to different parts of Northern Ireland. Absolutely loved it. Friendly people, nice environment. Would like to understand my relationship patterns. I've studied attachment theory and other theories, but like to learn and develop my understanding. Good. Actually, we're going to talk about understanding, so that's great. Anita, I tend to get on well with people as a norm, but I do get very irritated by some people and would like to know how to manage this, especially with staff and some family members. All right, good. So that is quite some feedback, guys. Let's just dive right into it. Okay, Becca says dealing with a loss from divorce due to fleeing domestic abuse from ex-hubby. Good. Becca, on that note, we're going to do some webinars in the near future, which is about knowing who you can trust and also about the antisocial personality. How they behave, the way that they behave, and why they actually behave the way they do. What's the why behind it? That is upcoming. Can't really tell you what date it is, but sometime soon. You know what? So we're going to be talking about understanding tonight, right? Understanding. And we're actually going to dissect understanding in 3 component parts. Now, Dita, maybe you want to share the triangle with us. See if we can actually get that on the screen tonight. All right, so there we go. We're just going to leave that in the chat or on the screen for a bit. You actually see there a triangle. You see in the middle of the triangle, you see understanding. And understanding is composed of 3 factors, if you will. So we got affinity, we got reality, and we got communication. And this triangle is actually abbreviated by, let's say, the ARC triangle. It comes from this book. I'm just going to hold it up here. I'm going to show it again toward the end of the evening. It's called A New Slant on Life by L. Ron Hubbard. And he says there on page 91, there is a triangle of considerable importance, and an ability to use it gives a much greater understanding of life. The ARC triangle is the keystone of living associations. This triangle is the common denominator to all of life's activities. Good. All right. So let's see, how does this work? Let's dissect it. Let's just start with reality. So reality, we find that in the bottom right corner. And it says there, reality is agreement. So what do we mean by reality exactly? We actually mean the things that we can agree upon. It is as simple as that. You could say, well, you know, we agree that that's a whiteboard marker. We could agree on that. And we could say, well, we agree that this is a whiteboard. And we would agree that this is a book. Okay. Quite easy to understand. So reality would say, would mean agreement. It is what you can agree upon. And of course, if you look at reality, then most of the time you would talk about solid things. You would talk about materialistic things. You would talk about a car. You would talk about flowers. You would talk about a table, a kitchen. Materialistic things, and these are very, very easily observable. So when we talk about observable things like a marker, like a book, when we talk about observable things, we usually find it very easy to be in agreement, because we would say, yeah, we both agree that that is that object, right? So that means you have the same reality. In other words, it is real for both of you. You can see that you can actually interchange these words: real, reality, and agreement. All right? Now, funny enough, ideas are not materialistic. They're not materialistic objects. So we have the materialistic things, and then we have ideas. Now, with the materialistic things, because we can touch them, we can see them, and they're tangible and everything else, we find it easy to get an agreement. Whereas an idea is not really tangible, it's not really materialistic, and we find to have disagreements a bit more often. So that's my first question there. Have you actually observed that? That whenever you talk about a solid thing, a car, a bunch of flowers, a haircut, clothing, what have you, that it's easier to find agreement than when you're talking about ideas. Have you observed this? That's my first question. Okay, so Nicolene says yes. All right. Anybody else? The whole idea, guys, is that we always do a lot of questions in the webinars. We do a lot of questions just to get ourselves familiarized with the subject matter. Yeah. And it's fantastic. Everybody's replying. So, okay, I think we're headed for a very, very nice webinar tonight. Cool. So I guess this is a bit real, yeah? It's a bit real that we have materialistic things versus ideas. Now, it's quite interesting. So sane people, they agree very, very solidly on reality. They would say that for sure is a highlighter. And so they would agree that things are real. Now, insane people, it's an interesting fact. So insane people, they have imagined realities. They have imagined realities. They might enter something in there that isn't really real, that other people don't really recognize as real. They might say, oh, watch out for that. These things can be very dangerous. You're like, what are we talking about, right? But insane people, they have a tendency to do that quite a bit. Yeah? So they mix up the real stuff and they enter something in there that doesn't belong there because that's not part of the item. Good. So this is reality. And we're just going to go to the next corner, and the triangle can stay. The next corner is affinity. And affinity is a bit of a fancy word. In Spanish, it would be afinidad. It's a bit of a fancy word that means to love or to like something. And of course, it can also go in the opposite direction, which would be to dislike something. And it happens to work on a scale. Now, it's very easy to understand if you would say affinity's got a lot to do with distance. You're like, okay, well, that is a bit technical. Affinity's got a lot to do with distance. Well, let's say we take it like this. Let's say there's a person that you really love. It's a person that you really love. What happens? You would like to have that person really close to you. Maybe you have a favorite pet, a dog, a cat, a hamster, a bird, whatever. And you would like to have that pet really close to you because you love it so much. And likewise, if there isn't any love, if it's like you detest it, you like to keep it at a distance. Let's say, well, there's this vagabond, this bum in the street, and he's on alcohol, and he looks horrible. I'm going to make a big tour around him. I'm going to keep my distance from that person. So affinity, actually, if we say love and liking, it's got everything to do with distance. So me, for example, I'm always wearing a white shirt. I love these shirts. They got short sleeves. I got 5 of them. And every day I'm walking in that white shirt. So why do I do that? That's because I have a lot of affinity for white shirts. And I happen to have it very, very close to me all the time, which is to say I'm wearing it every day. Now, likewise, let me ask you a question. Who has ever bought a piece of clothing, like a shirt or a dress or whatever, and found out that you actually bought it and it just disappeared in the wardrobe and it stayed there for a long time and you didn't wear it? Whoever ran into this. You bought something like a jeans, trousers, you bought a piece of garment, and it was just there nicely on the hanger in the wardrobe, but you didn't actually wear it. Have you gone through that? Okay. Yeah, Anita, happens to me sometimes. All right. Guys, I just have to catch up with the chat a little bit. I'm just gonna go up to Becca. Thank you so much. Oh, that's for Chantal. Very good. All right, guys. I'm happy to see you. You guys are interacting with one another as well. Okay. Good. Okay. So Nicolene says, Shawnee the cat. Nice. Becca, yes. Happens to me sometimes. Yeah. All right. Good. So, if you actually ran into that, you bought a piece of clothing, and you never really wore it, that means your affinity for it is not really high. You don't like it much, to be honest. You don't like it much because you're keeping it at a distance. And likewise, you may have stuff that you really like, so you want to keep that close. Does that make sense? Now, so that means that when it comes to affinity, you like to have things more or less in the same space. Yeah, so when you have a lot of affinity, you like a person very much, or you love a person very much, you like to have that person in the same space. Whereas when you dislike a person, or when you don't love a person, you kind of like You don't want to have that person in the same space. You see what I mean? Yeah. So, another question. Do you know a person who doesn't like people very much? Do you know a person who doesn't like people very much? Or also skip the word very. Do you know a person who doesn't like people much? Oh, Becca. Okay, Becca. There was an epiphany there. You got that point. Okay, it's nice to see that. Okay. All right. So if you know a person who doesn't like people much, that person has very low affinity. And it's not just for people. His affinity is low for everything in life, including himself, including his possessions. Yeah. When a person doesn't like others very much, he also doesn't like himself very much. He's not even fond of his possessions. Basically, that person has a lot of trouble in life. Now, another question. Do you know somebody who easily likes a lot of people? Do you know somebody who easily likes others? Who can easily associate with others? Can easily converse with others? Easily like another person? Yeah, you've seen that too. So there is a person who has a high affinity. It's got a high affinity. He can easily tolerate people in his space. The person got a very low affinity will repel a person from his space and try to build space between him and the other person. It's a very low affinity. But a very high affinity actually likes to bring things close to him. Right? That's like showing love and liking. So I've got an interesting quote here. So if you love others, you also love yourself. If you hate others, you will also hate yourself. In other words, a person who really dislikes himself also dislikes other people. That's how it works. So in a healthy state of mind, you would say it's very good to love yourself. It's very good to like yourself, to be fond of yourself, to be happy with yourself. That's a very good state of mind to be in, right? And so the best thing to be is a friend of yourself, right, so to speak. If you're a good friend of yourself, you can have many friends. If you have very few friends, it's very, very limited. If you have very, very few friends, just a consideration that you can't really have friends, then you don't really like friends, and you won't like yourself either. Okay? Now, we're going to go to the next slide. I'm going to show you a bit more about a scale of affinity. Now, Dita, we can do the next one. Right. Peter Ack, no idea. All right. Okay, guys. So we have an interesting scale here. You have my booklet. All right. I was like, where's my booklet? And I had such an interesting booklet that my colleague Dita, who is the host tonight, thank you, Dita. She was so intrigued with the scale and the booklet. Said, Erik, I want to make some notes. Can I have it? And it actually comes from this booklet here. Let me put a little bit closer into the camera. It's called the Emotional Tone Scale. By the end of the evening, I'm going to offer that to you, basically for free. So stay here. It's some amazing technology, really, if you want to have knowledge about human behavior. If you really want to predict somebody's behavior, that is your tool, and there's more about that in this book. So that's where I got the data from tonight. So what do we see in this scale here? So we actually see all these emojis, right? And the top emoji there is called happiness, right? And you could say that is an abundance of affinity. That person in happiness, he is really able to tolerate people very, very near to him. He can have a lot of people all near, right? It wouldn't be any problem. Now, if you go to the middle of the scale, you see these guys fighting there, hostility. And it's an interesting thing because there you have this idea like, don't you dare coming near to me. Don't you dare coming in my space. You see, it's quite a drop. It's like, I don't want to have you in my space. Whereas, you know, if it would drop a little bit lower to grief and hopelessness, the person might actually be in fear and but doesn't have the guts anymore to express any hostility or whatever. The feeling is almost there. Please don't come near me. Please don't come near me. You see? So that the whole scale of affinity has got a lot to do with space and occupying space. Now, we go from happiness, which is a sort of an abundant feeling, right? And you could also say next to affinity, it is also a scale of, let's say, life force, aliveness, life units which are available to the individual, right? Now, you actually possess a lot of that life force, right? You actually possess a lot. Sometimes, or maybe at some point, you heard the expression that you're only using 10% of your potential. Is some quote from Albert Einstein. At some point he said, we're only using 10% of our potential. So if that's real to you, then from a scientific point of view, and I don't want to make you wrong, I don't want to be insulting, but that means that you're not using 90% of your potential, right? Okay, so that is where a part of your life force, seems to have been taken away from you. Now, on this chart, happiness is a bit on the top of the chart, but it would actually go way above that. You can go way higher. Yeah, this is the most common emotional tones, emotional states that you see, that you can observe in other human beings, right? And the higher it is, the more you have that life force. The lower it is, the more that life force is like part of your rucksack, bad experiences and so on, right? And now seems to be working against you. That's your 90% on average. Okay? So when a person loses a bit of happiness, he might still be satisfied, contented. And when he loses a bit of that, he might go into boredom. When it gets a bit lower than that, the person will be antagonistic, hostile. Below that, he goes to fear, to grief and hopelessness. Quick example, if you want to know how that works, it's completely explained in here, including a complete chart of how a person would speak, how he would listen, his medical condition, how he treats children, on and on and on. So let's say we have little Johnny, and little Johnny is very happy. And he sees that his friend has a lollipop or an ice cream. And he's super interested in having an ice cream himself. So he goes and he sees his mom, and it's about dinner time, and his mom says, no, you're not going to have a lollipop or an ice cream because we're about to have dinner. Okay, so let me ask you as a question here in the chat. So what would happen if Johnny really wants that ice cream and his mom tells him he's definitely not going to get an ice cream? what is going to happen to his emotional tone? Is he going to stay happy, or is he going to drop? Is he going to drop to another emotion? What do you guys think? So Johnny wants an ice cream. He's very happy at first. And his mom says, nope, you can't get an ice cream because we're going to have dinner or whatever. Let's say, but he just saw that his friend actually got an ice cream. And of course, he's like, he still wants the ice cream. So is he going to stay happy? Is he going to stay polite? Is he going to stay friendly? Is his affinity still high for his mom? Does he still like his mom when she says no? What is going to happen, guys? Is he going to stay the same, or is his emotion going to change and drop? All right, so I think you all agree that is dropping, right? Now, he might actually go into the direction of hostility, which is like he gets angry about it. He gets upset about it. He starts to criticize, right? He gets a bit hostile. And he says, yes, but Peter got an ice cream. Why can't I have one? See, he's just dropping. Okay, now let's say mom doesn't take that kind of behavior. And she said, now you listen to me, you young man. You're just going to keep your mouth shut. We're going to have dinner. You're not going to have an ice cream. You hear me? So, all right, now he's meeting the same emotional tone. Where do you think he's going to go next? Is he going to go up? Is he going to stay the same? Is he going to go more down? What do you think? Where do you think he's going to go? What emotion do you think might be present at that point? Anita, okay, so further down to hopelessness, okay. Becca says it's going to drop. Poor child is going to be upset, all right. Nicolene says grief. Yeah, all right. Lua says it will drop further. Yeah, exactly. All right. So it's probably going to drop to grief, right? He's going to be sad about it. So what do we see here? Like in a time span, in a time frame of perhaps 2 minutes, he's going to drop from happiness to grief. And the interesting part here is that some people in life never jump up again. Something happens to them, they drop quite a bit on that emotional scale, and they never seem to get up again. They might have a loss, some kind of an upset, some kind of a happening in their life that they didn't recover from. They just dropped tremendously on that scale. They lost a lot of life vitality, life energy, life force, and they were never able to rebound again. You've probably seen it in people. Now, so, okay, so let's make this very, very practical. You've probably seen people who always seem to be cheerful, right? Becca, I feel this way, lots of knocks, okay. All right, so Becca, the good thing is that we can actually do something about it. You can actually do something about it. That's the good news. I've been there myself. Gosh, I'm not going to start talking about that, but this technology here, I'm just giving you a snippet tonight. But this technology here has helped me so much to regain that potential and life vitality. That's why I have this passion to share it tonight. Good. The good news is something can be done. All right. Now, so just think for a moment. You can probably think of a person that you see who is generally cheerful. Seems to be cheerful most of the time. Yeah? And you could say, well, that person is close to happiness, close to feeling happy. Contented, you don't see that much, but you might see people who seem to be always bored, right? They have no immediate goals in life. And they might be browsing on their phones. They might be reading some article. They're probably avoiding the bigger things of life. It's the small talk kind of thing, a boring existence. So you probably know somebody who's always, in that kind of range, boredom. Now we drop one down, let's say hostility. You probably know people are always criticizing, grumpy, bad moods. I didn't ask you anything, snarling. You probably know people like that, right? Well, they're like over there in hostility. And maybe you know somebody who seems to be always afraid. Hey, you want to come? Oh, no, not tonight. No, I have something else to do. No, maybe next time, the spoil sport type of thing. Yeah. These people just might be in fear. And then you have people who never really overcame a major loss in their life, and the leastest thing gets them to cry. And then there's people for whom everything seems to be hopeless. Nothing can be done about it anyway. It's all hopeless. It's not even worth trying. Why should you try? Leave it to somebody else, and so on. Yeah, you've probably seen that. Now, and that tells you again, like on the top of the scale, you have a high affinity. That person is able to have a lot of people around him, objects around him. And whereas when we go more down towards hostility, we start to repel things. And when we go even more down, we're really succumbing to the whole force that's overrunning us. Yeah. So that's an affinity scale. That gives you a bit of an idea how affinity is expressed. You buy new jeans, yay, happy, you want to wear it right away. Gives you an idea how that works. Good. Now, the idea is everybody is on that scale. If you really want to know people, everybody is on this scale. And obviously, you're fluctuating. You get some good news, you cheer up. You get some bad news, you go down. But on the average, you're somewhere on that scale. And this booklet will tell you exactly how you behave in terms of relationships, in terms of talking, speaking, sexual behavior, responsibility, reality levels, communication, medical levels, and so on. It's super interesting. Good. See, just reading what Anita says, I came across that hopelessness with some of the young people we work with. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, planet Earth, there's a lot of things going on. Planet Earth is actually, with everything that's happening, it is actually pushing a lot of folks into hopelessness. You would agree on that, I suppose, right? Okay, we're gonna go to the next point on the triangle, and that would be communication. Now, are you guys tracking so far? Just a quick check, because I've been talking a bit, didn't ask any questions. Are you guys tracking so far? Just a yes or no, please. That would be great. And again, my specialty, I'm always announcing it. My cup looks very, very dirty, but it's got ginger tea in there, cloves, cayenne pepper, and honey. I recommend it. It's fantastic for your throat when you have a lot of talking to do, but it's a tremendous immune booster as well. Okay, good. So everybody's tracking. Right, now, I'm actually going to put something on the board. Dita, you're going to take the picture away. So, remember we had ARC. So there's reality, common agreement, affinity. One more factor to go, which is communication. Communication is simply the conveying of an idea or an object across space. Aha! What's going on here? across space, across distance. And what did we just learn? Distance was affinity. Distance was affinity. So in other words, if we're trying to communicate across a long distance, for example, a phone call, then your affinity has to be very high. Because the distance is so far, your affinity for the other person is just that's so far away. Your affinity has to be way high. She cannot be snarling and criticizing and nagging at that person who's at the other end of the line, because that would abruptly end the conversation, right? So somehow you have to keep that affinity very, very high. Now, if it's in person and you're having a conversation in person, well, ideally, you're able to occupy the same space. So again, you want to have affinity to be able to be in the same space. Right, so communication is there. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to get a reality. Get a reality across, and then hope that here we get the same reality. And now we have affinity, reality, communication, ARC. And this equals understanding. So how do we get understanding? Well, let's say this reality was completely copied here for a full 100%. And now, obviously, if this is 100% copied, we get what we call an agreement. Let's say Joe says, I just bought a laptop. And Bill, he receives, I just bought a laptop. So now they both know what it's all about. They can agree that it is about a laptop. And they can agree that it was just bought. Right? Remember, we're talking about sane people. We're not talking about insane people. Okay? So here then we get these three factors. Now, just gonna pop you a question here. Let's say here we don't get 100% copy. Or we get a, let's say this guy here only understands half of the message. He only understands half of the message. Whatever it is, he fabricates something more, something less. What is going to happen to that understanding? What do you think is going to happen to the understanding? Feel free to use the chat. Yeah. So in other words, this is a very real example in life, right? You're having a conversation, you're trying to pass something on, but the other guy only gets it for 50%, or whatever. You know, what is going to happen to that understanding? Exactly, it's going to get compromised. We're going to get miscommunication. We get something that is misunderstood. All right. So, good. All right. Now, let's see how this works in reality. So let's imagine you have two people, and they have affinity for one another. They like one another. Let's say we're talking about a couple, right? Husband and wife, two partners, whatever. Let's say we're talking about a couple. Now let's say she just went to the hairdresser and she just got a new color. And she decided to dye her hair red. decided to dye her hair red. Now, the husband comes home, he sees her, and he looks at her, and he said, "Oh my God, darling, what you do to your hair?" She says, "You like it?" "I love it. It's fantastic. It suits you so well." Well, what happened here is this. The reality, the agreement, whatever was real to them, it just grew. So now there was more agreement, right? What do you think when there is more agreement? What do you think is going to happen to the distance, to the feeling of love or liking or affinity, in other words? What is going to happen to the affinity? So when they have a better agreement, when they both agree on the same thing, they love the red hair, they have the same reality, what is going to happen to the affinity? Lewis says, okay, affinity will grow more. Exactly, it will increase. Anita says that affinity will get closer. Right. Okay. So the affinity is also going up, right? And I could actually pop in another question, but you guys guessed it, the communication will also rise. So what do we have here? We actually have a triangle understanding, which is improving, increasing. We have the same reality. Now we like each other even more, and now we communicate even more, you see? So that triangle is expanding. Okay, let's turn the whole thing around. Let's just turn it around and say, she dyed her hair red. Let's say this is the original triangle that we're going to start with right now between them. So she dyed her hair red. The husband comes home. He's like, "What you do to your hair?" And she says, "What do you mean?" He says, "It's horrible. It's horrible." All right, so she obviously liked her red hair, and he says, "It's absolutely horrible." So we got two different realities. For her, it's real. For him, it's totally unreal. So now we have a clash in reality. They don't agree. They do not agree, right? So that reality, there's a reality clash here. This one comes in, okay? Now, as a response, remember these emotional tones. What do you think is going to happen with her emotional tone and her affinity in general? Well, in other words, does she still like him? Does she still like him now that he has completely disapproved of her hair? What is going to happen to that affinity of hers? Is it going to increase? Is it going to stay the same? Is the affinity becoming less? What do you guys think is going to happen? So will she still like him? That is the question. Will she still like him now? Pop in your answer, please. Okay, Jack, affinity and communication will decrease. Absolutely, man. Okay, Nicolene says, no, she won't like him anymore. Becca says, if somebody keeps doing this, this proves you a lot. You will eventually dislike the person. Exactly. So what we're getting here is that here we have a major disagreement. Now, we have a drop in affinity. Now, would you still like to go on communicating about the subject? Well, most likely you wouldn't, right? So your communication is going to drop. And here we have a way smaller understanding. We understand each other. We understand each other very little right now, you could say. The understanding has just collapsed. You can see that. You talk with your friend and you agree on this and this and this and this, and then you make that fatal mistake to start talking politics. Oh my God, or you're in for a surprise. You'll see that ARC just go by the boards when you have different opinions. What this is called, there's a nice word for that. It's called an ARC break. It's a sudden break in affinity, reality, and communication. So, let me ask you a few questions. It's a stunning tool, isn't it? Actually, like I just said, I'm just giving you some snippets. If you want to know more about it, actually there's a whole chapter dedicated to it in this book. This book's got like 15 different chapters, all about life tools. Each and every tool you can use right away to improve your life, improve relationships, handle your ups and downs, become more aware of things, knowing what your mind is about, what holds you back, what is the 90% that you can actually develop and recover. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's all in there. It's a great book. Anyway, let's just go back to that ARC triangle. Here's a question. Maybe as a kid, do you recall that you had to kiss a person that you didn't want to kiss? Do you recall such a moment that you actually had to kiss a person but you didn't want to? Have you ever experienced that? Put it in the chat, guys. Have you ever experienced that you had, maybe your parents told you, you had to kiss a person, but you felt you didn't want that? All right. Yeah, so we've been there, yeah? We've been there, okay? So that is like an enforced, it's an enforced reality. You didn't agree with that person, but you had to agree with that person. And it's an enforced communication because you didn't want to touch or communicate with that person. But now you had to. You didn't feel any love or liking or whatever for that person, but you had to. It was an enforced affinity. See how that works? Let's turn it around. Maybe you recall a moment that you actually felt a lot of affection for a person. And you wanted to give that person a hug, or you wanted to give that person a kiss. And the person just pushed you away. You ever experienced that? You actually felt affection for a person, and the person just pushed you away. Did that ever occur? Has that happened to you guys? Nicolene? All right. Yeah. Like you felt affection, you felt love for another person. And maybe you want to give that other person a hug. Maybe you want to give that other person a kiss on the cheek. Or whatever. But you felt affectionate. And the other person just pushed you away. Like, no, I don't want you. Yeah? So some of us have actually experienced that, right? We felt affection and the other person pushed you away. Well, then how do you respond to that immediately after? Well, your communication drops, right? You don't feel like you want to communicate to that person anymore. Is the person still real? Is the person still agreeable to you? Can you still agree with his or her action? No. Yeah, the reality drops. Right? And your affinity drops. You see how that works? So that would be an inhibited ARC. Let's do another one. Have you ever been in a situation that somebody demanded to talk to them? You said, listen to me, stay here, I want to talk to you. Now, listen to me. You ever been in that situation where a person demanded communication? Ever been there? Push the guy into the water because I liked him. Okay. So you can be in a situation where you have demanded ARC. Some people just simply demand it. But if it's demanded, it doesn't work because it has to be natural. You cannot demand communication. Hey, you, listen to me. You say, I'm walking away. I don't want to communicate. You're not real to me. I don't like you. You see? So that is how that works. So in other words, you could say there's almost a secret to it. If you are really able to maintain a high affinity, even if the situation tells you to do the contrary. You're faced with a person that maybe you don't like so much. Maybe it could be a senior, a boss, or whatever. You find it hard to remain your position in the same space. It can be very hard. The one thing that you don't want is that somebody brings you down on that scale. You don't want that. Let's say you're cheerful. Somebody's just trying to press you down. And then you stay there for the rest of the day. That's not what you want, right? So somehow you got to be able to stay in the higher region or move upward to the higher region where you have the feeling that pretty much anybody can come in your space. Also, that you have the feeling that you have the control to communicate effectively, where you can actually, by proper communication, get the person out of your space by means of proper communication, not by means of effort or a tremendous drop in ARC. You see, so there's a lot to know about this. Unfortunately, right now, these tools are actually available. I see that it's already 9 o'clock. So let me just ask you a few questions here. So, Jag, how can you improve ARC with someone who is not willing to put in the effort, who does not replicate ARC back? Yeah, so first of all, Jag, the main thing here is that for anything that we want to improve, we need to have data. We need to have the knowledge. You might as well ask me, oh, Erik, so how do I fix my injectors in the engines so that the next time they're not stuttering or they're not throwing in air into the chamber or whatever? I'm just making something up. How do I do that? Well, the first thing you would do is you would get some knowledge. If the knowledge is accurate, precise, workable, then you will get the desired result. And that's what it's all about. You simply want to have the knowledge that is going to give you the results. I would love to answer your question. However, there's a bit more to this because we're dealing with 3 factors. On communication alone, we could spend an entire day because communication we can dissect again in different factors. On reality, there's more to say about that. On affinity, There's a lot more to say about that. So my best suggestion to you is get some knowledge, acquire some knowledge. That is my answer. The knowledge actually can be found, to be honest, in this book. You'll find a lot of answers to your questions in the book. You have a chapter, is it possible to be happy? There's a chapter, personal integrity, and I've used that also in the previous webinars. There is a chapter on man's search for his soul, which is all about awareness. Then you have a chapter on our efforts for immortality. What are we trying to achieve in life? And there's the 8 dynamics that comprise life itself. And there's the affinity reality communication triangle. Then there's a chapter on handling the confusions of work. A chapter on marriage and relationships. There's a chapter on how to live with children. What is greatness? 2 rules for a happy living. The antisocial and social personalities, which is like, I will give you tools to know who are your friends. To know that very, very precisely. There's a chapter on what reveals the cause of the conflicts. And then finally, honesty and ethics. And in between, you find many other chapters. Now, what do you think, guys? If you would move up, maybe Dita, maybe you could pop up that scale again, tone scale. Okay, good. So back to the scale. The scale appears in the book. The scale also appears in the additional booklet. So who would like to move toward the top of the scale, like toward the happiness? This is where you really get things done. You would move out of fear. Well, procrastination, ladies and gentlemen, actually is very close to fear. You wouldn't procrastinate if you weren't afraid of the effects that you were going to create. You wouldn't procrastinate if you wouldn't be afraid of the results of your actions. So there's something there that's holding you back. I can tell you that the majority of the people on planet Earth right now happens to be in fear. For a good reason, obviously. So who would like to go to the top of the scale and be happy? And be able to accomplish a lot? And be able to deal with life in the best sense? Who would like to be there? Okay, Nicolene says me. All right. Becca says me. Okay, fantastic. So everybody else says, well, I'm happy where I am, right? Anita says, I would try to be at happiness, but can be more at fear. Okay. All right. Thank you for letting us know, Anita. That's an honest answer. Jack, okay. You would like to be there as well. Good. So here's my thing. Yeah, if you just look at that scale from top to bottom, do you think that, for example, having good relationships, whether that is a relationship with a partner, or with colleagues, or with family members, or just with society at large, do you think that good relationships, achieving goals in life, getting more out of life itself, do you think that is going to improve the more you go up on that scale? In other words, is life going to get better when you start to move up on that scale? Very true. Yeah, very true. So that is basically what happens. So basically, we have that scale, and actually, it is kind of like an indicator that there is a way to get there. And the way to get there actually starts with knowledge. I came from, when I was in my college period, I was definitely in fear. In school, I would never raise my finger and say, can I ask you a question? I just wouldn't do that. If I would have to do a public speech, I would not be able to hold the paper still, right? Later on, I found out I actually had a phobia. I didn't dare to make phone calls. And like making phone calls, that seemed to be the worst thing. I got the butterfly feelings in my tummy, shaking all over. I went from one job to another because I hated it and I couldn't do it. And after having discovered this technology, I can happily say I'm no longer in fear. You can put me on the phone the whole day, and I actually like it. I like to do public talks. I like that too. There's a lot of things that have changed for the better. So what I'm trying to say, bottom line, I'm going to end off now because you guys have been listening for a long time, which I appreciate. So because of psychology and psychiatry, mental health has gotten a very bad name. A lot of people don't really trust this mental health subject anymore. Now, that doesn't mean it's all bad. There's actually stuff out there that could help you to rapidly increase your IQ, that could rapidly increase your competence, and that will help you to recover that 90% and develop it fast. And this is going to give you a start to actually understand what life, your mind, your awareness, and at 90% that holds you back is all about. You have a book that will give you immediate tools to start handling life. So the book is normally 17 euros, and we're going to do the same offer tonight. However, we're going to toss in the extra book on the emotional tone scale. And so what you're going to get is, see, you're going to get some text, you're going to get pictures here, you're going to get the full explanation, full tone scale that will show you how deep you can go, how high you can go, and then a complete chart to accurately predict who is the person that you're with, or who is the person that you're having in mind to be with, and how does that person behave. You can actually see, is that person going to be good for me or not? So the offer is going to appear in the chat. I think Dita just put it there. I really want to have a sip of my tea now, so I'm going to let you enjoy and have a look while I'm going to have another sip of tea. Screen again. All right. Okay, guys. So we're gonna try to make an end here and end it off. I actually have another, maybe perhaps a little surprise for you. So if you guys are interested, I can. One of the things that I do a lot is personality test evaluations. And if you would like to do a personality test, very accurate one, that will tell you a lot about your relationship skills, about your activities, and how you feel about yourself. What is your regard for yourself? What's your regard for others? What's your activity levels? What's your confidence? If you want to know more about that, and if you're interested in, finding a solution on what to do, where to start when it comes to self-betterment, self-improvement, I'll be more than happy to share the test with you. You can fill it in online. You can let me know when it's done, and I'll be happy to give you the results, including a recommendation on something that I would feel like, okay, this might be a very good thing for you to read or study. Right. Nevertheless, what I just offered here, that offer is valid till 9:30 tonight, so that it's for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to give that booklet away for free. On top of that, if anybody wants to have a free personality test with a free consultation or results for free, let me know in the chat, or respond to Dita in the chat and say, yeah, I'm interested, or just yes, it's all fine. And we'll send it over to you, and you can actually get started with that. Okay? All right, guys. So Dita already responded to that in the chat. All right, so before ending off, does anybody have any questions about the materials? Any questions on it? The life tools, it's like a toolbox for life, just like a carpenter would have a screwdriver, a saw, I don't know, a shave, a hammer. With those tools, you can actually get results. With this, you can actually get results. That is the whole idea. So Becca, you want to do the personality test? Chantal as well. Great. Okay, guys. So I'm going to make sure you get that. Anita's actually doing a little bit of promotion here. The personality test is really good. Consultation I found very useful. It's true, Anita. We did that together. That was nice. Thank you for your comment. Really sweet. Any questions, guys? Anything to add? Anything that you want to ask me? Any comments? First of all, I'm super happy you came and attended the webinar tonight. I was really happy with that. We had a nice interaction. You guys nicely participated in the chat. It was great. Absolutely like that. Nicolene says, okay, I read the book. It's wonderful. Helps to understand. Well, yeah. Fantastic, Nicolene. Me too. I recommend it. Of course, it's up to you. 17 euros. What do you get these days for 17 euros? You get a hamburger meal, right? And a milkshake. So these books, they're really an investment in you. That's an investment in your future. It's not just like a motivational book. It's not a psychology book. It's not something that is just nice to read. It's actually a manual for life improvement. That's what it is. And you actually find tools that you can use right away. Just like this, you know a bit more about that. It's just going to work for you. Becca says, is this around Scientology? Yes, that's what it is. Which, by the way, means a study of knowing. It's not something that's being forced. It's basically an invitation to look it over, to find out for yourself if it works for you. Becca, thank you for the webinar. Okay. All right, guys. So I don't know what we have in store next week. I've been keeping you here already way too long. Find out on Meetup. Find out on Eventbrite what is the topic next week. But I'd love to see you then. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's been great. And yeah, that's it, guys. That's the end of the webinar. Once again, it's been great. Thank you for all the comments. I look forward to see you next week. Bye for now.